Hello, everyone, and welcome to our game development and game design information session. I'm going to kick off the event here in just a couple of minutes. But before I do, I always like to double check, make sure that everybody can see me okay, everybody can hear me okay. I'm in a new setup here for myself today, so I just want to really make sure that my sound is working okay and everybody can see me all right. Awesome, awesome. I see some thumbs up coming through. Perfect. So that's what that leads me to my next bit of information. I've enabled the React emojis for this presentation, so feel free to react with thumbs up, interact with me that way. You can also use the chat log in the bottom right-hand corner. Crystal clear. Awesome. Thanks, Joshua. So yeah, use the chat log throughout the presentation. If you have any questions for myself or for the guest speaker, you can use the questions tab that's just right beside the chat tab. I will let everyone know we will be going through a Q&A session at the end today. So we'll kind of be purposefully ignoring the questions throughout the session so that we can focus on them at the end and kind of go through that together. I always say I put them up for everyone to see as a class. So yeah, so feel free to interact in the chat, leave your questions in the questions tab for the Q&A session at the end. There's also a polls tab down in the right corner. I've dropped a couple polls in there for everyone to engage with or fill out throughout the presentation. So feel free to interact with those and submit your responses for the polls. And then finally, just the people tab there. You can see all of the lovely folks who are attending the presentation here today. So without further ado, I can get this presentation officially kicked off here. I'll put this screen up a little bit bigger because this one's more important for everyone to see. All right, so yes, today's session, how to get a job in the gaming industry and why YouTube tutorials aren't the answer. I'll start off by introducing myself. So my name is Tyler. I work at CircuitStream. I've been with this company for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I guess, leading into this spring, which is crazy. Feels like some days it's been 5 minutes and some days it feels like I've been here my whole life. So we'll also have a guest speaker joining. I'm not inviting him up on stage quite yet, but I will in just a few minutes. His name is Matt Koopman. He's a graduate from our game development bootcamp, and I'm just going to ask him some questions. Excuse me. And he's going to share information about his experience in the bootcamp and kind of what he's up to now. So I will invite him up shortly here. Before we do that, I'll start off by sharing. So in today's presentation, you're going to learn how you can break into the gaming industry as developers and designers with no prior experience. Earning certifications is an amazing way to do this, as it allows you to expand your knowledge and skills, gain credibility, gain a competitive advantage, and become part of a connected community. Oops. Put this up here. So CircuitStream, I'll share some information about CircuitStream here. We began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, creators, and we are now a leading provider of technology learning in different spaces like AR, VR, game development and design, software development, and product management. We also partner with leading industry companies and educational institutions to offer courses and training to those looking to learn more about these emerging technologies. So a little bit of history about us. CircuitStream takes pride in the consistent and positive feedback and reviews we receive from our students. We currently have a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, and 92% of our job-seeking students utilized our bootcamp student career services, which I'll share a little bit more on. Actually, we'll have another guest on stage sharing some information about that in not too long here. And you know what? With all these stats on the screen, I always do like to mention this. I don't think I did at the very beginning. This full session is going to be recorded for everybody. So at the end of the session, you should receive a recording in your email with the full session. So feel free to take notes. Feel free to take screenshots. You can do anything that you like there. You can also sit back and just relax and enjoy the information, and we'll send you a full recording with everything afterwards there. So. Now, in terms of our course outcomes, we've had 92% of our 2022 and 2023 graduates find employment in relevant roles, and 25% of them actually achieved this milestone before they even completed the course, which is amazing. So, now I'll share a little bit about the tools that we use here. So the primary tool that we use in the Game Development Bootcamp is Unity. For those who don't know, Unity is one of the world's leading platforms for creating and operating an interactive real-time 3D content. You can also use it to create games, visualizations, immersive experiences, and much, much more. As you can see on screen, 70% of the top 1,000 mobile games were made with Unity, and Unity creators are located everywhere all around the world. So these stats will be in that recording there for you folks too. Perfect. I see some questions going in there, Scott. Just in case you missed me saying this earlier, I just want to make sure you know we are going to do a Q&A session at the end here. So I see your question. We will definitely get to it. But just so you know, we're not ignoring you while I go through the information here. We'll definitely circle back and do the Q&A for you. All right. And then here's a few examples of some games that were made in Unity. Pokemon Go, Beat Saber, Monument Valley are just a few that I can name here, but you can obviously see some more on screen. Among Us, that's one I played a little bit during the lockdowns. The primary tool we use in the game design bootcamp is Unreal. So for those who don't know or aren't familiar with Unreal, the Unreal Engine was designed by Epic Games and is another global leading platform used for creating and operating interactive real-time 3D content. It provides a comprehensive suite of tools for game designers and developers to use. Over 50% of the next-gen games are being built in the Unreal Engine. And on screen, you can see some examples of games that were created using Unreal. So some familiar ones there for sure. Fortnite. The gaming industry has grown significantly in recent years, and with that, the career opportunities have as well. Becoming a game developer or designer can be a rewarding career choice for individuals who are passionate about gaming, and for those who have a flair for creative and interactive experiences, problem solving, and just technology in general. On screen, you can see some of the top reasons why people would choose to work as game developers and as game designers. Sorry if I don't want to go through these slides too fast, but in case anyone's joining in, I know I've said it a few times. I usually get asked a few times, so I apologize if I repeat, but this whole session will be recorded and sent out to everybody there. So in the US, there are over 3,000 game studios employing almost 300,000 people. And in Canada, there's been tremendous growth over the last few years with over 900 active game studios, which is a 35% increase since just 2019, which is kind of crazy. Not only that, the game industry has contributed to over $5 billion in Canada's GDP, which is a 29% increase in just the last 4 years. So as a game designer, you'll have the power to shape exciting new games. The average salary for game designers in the US and in Canada are $120,000 per year. There are a range of job titles in this field, and we've added some examples. Obviously, game designer would be a very obvious one there, but level designers, system designers, et cetera, you can see other options on the screen there. And currently there are over 8,000 job openings for game developers in the United States alone, with the average salary sitting at $121,000 annually. Now is a great time to get into the industry. Some titles that you can end up with in this space, of course, again, would be game developer, but also game engineer, game programmer, et cetera, et cetera. And these are just a few of the companies that hire and for the positions, I guess, for both developers and designers. Many well-known companies such as EA Games, Rockstar Games, Epic Games are hiring in this space. But there's also many smaller indie studios like Cloudhead Games, Extremely OK Games, just a few examples there that also hire in this space as well. We're actually partnered with some of these companies that you can see on the screen right now too. I'm going to go ahead and share some information about our 2 6-month gaming boot camps with everybody now. I'll start off with the Game Design Bootcamp. So this bootcamp is designed for those who want to enter the gaming industry as a designer, want to establish their own companies, or utilize game design skills in their current roles. The great thing about this bootcamp, it is all project-based, so you gain practical skills while working on real-world projects. Over the course of the 30 weeks, you'll learn to analyze game design elements, conceive gameplay concepts, design game mechanics, create functioning game prototypes, and test novel gameplay ideas. You'll also learn about the role of a game designer and its various specializations and how they fit into video game production. Now on to the Unity Game Development Bootcamp. This one is designed for people looking to get into the gaming industry as a developer, those who are looking to start their own companies, or those looking to bring Unity development into their current roles. This course is completely beginner friendly, but it does tackle advanced concepts as you progress. So if you do have a bit of coding experience already, or if you've taken one of our other courses, like the XR development course, for example, you'll still get a lot out of the first couple of weeks. It'll just be a little bit more of a refresher in terms of the coding side. But the huge benefit there is if you are a true beginner, the course is amazing because it will start teaching you coding at the very base level, so you don't have to have any prior experience. Another great thing about this bootcamp is that it is project-based. You'll learn concepts in class and apply them to real-life projects and get to create your own ideas as the final assignment. You can work with a team of other students. You can work on your own, but ultimately you get to create a gamer experience from start to finish using the skills learned throughout the course. Our students really enjoy this part of the course because it allows them to build up a portfolio and create projects that demonstrate the skills that they've learned. And they also get to see their ideas come to life, which is what a lot of game developers get really excited for, and game designers. So. Now, I've already mentioned Unity and Unreal previously, but there's also quite a few other tools that we would use in the boot camps. You can see them on screen. We're always iterating on the course materials and tools to ensure they are the most up-to-date with what is currently being used in the industry. So you may see some tools added or swapped out depending on when you took the course with us. Having a hard time talking today. So if there's anybody in the crowd who's taken a course with us and they notice that some of these tools have swapped, that would be the reason. We're just trying to always stay up to date. And likewise, if you joined in a session a year from now, the chances are is that if we were showing the tools we would use, there'd probably be some other ones added in or swapped out here as well. So we found that having experience with both Unity and Unreal, though, sets students apart from the competition for sure. So as I mentioned, you'll be finishing the course with a portfolio of projects to demonstrate the skills you've learned. You'll finish the course with 5 projects to add to your portfolio and to show off to your network. And last but not least, by enrolling in these boot camps, you'll get a lifetime access to our private Circuit Stream community on Discord, which has over 1,200 members. This community is a great place to network, get help on projects, ask questions, find out about our career opportunities, or just connect with like-minded people. The best part is that you get to continue to be a part of this community even after the course has ended. Now, I would like to invite Wanai on stage to share some information on the career development and the support that's offered through our boot camps. Wanai is Circuit Stream's Student Outcome Manager. So without further ado, welcome Wanai.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. All right, so all of our boot camps come with career support and guidance. The Circuit Stream Career Labs teach students how to leverage technical and behavioral strengths, gain awareness of the digital ecosystem, create compelling portfolios, elevate digital presence, learn how to network effectively, and become interview ready for industry jobs. Our career and networking support really sets our programs apart from others you may find. Every student has different objectives coming in, but for those that are looking for new jobs or to improve their current positions, find this aspect of the course incredibly helpful. As part of the career support, our boot camps also come with a student pitch day, which happens towards the end of the program. Students have the opportunity to showcase their capstone projects to hiring and industry partners. This event is an amazing way to add people to your network, be considered for any job openings they may have, or to just receive feedback on your projects from hiring managers working in the industry.
Amazing, amazing. So thank you so much, Wanai. If anybody has any questions about the career support in our boot camps, obviously, you can put them in the questions tab, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end. But feel free to engage with Wanai in the chat as well, or even just say hello if you like there. So thanks again, Wanai. And now I would like to invite our guest speaker on stage for today. Matt Koopman is one of our game development bootcamp graduates. I think I mentioned this before, but I'm going to ask him some questions about his course experience and what he is up to now. So Matt, if you are available, feel free to join me on stage.
Hello.
Hello, hello. So I'm going to make your screen bigger because people are more interested in hearing from you than seeing my presentation. There we go.
A lot of me.
Awesome. Well, I'll dive right in, Matt, if you're okay with that. I'll just start asking some questions about your course experience. So I'll start off. Actually, you know what? I'll start off here. Like, what do you enjoy most about gaming, and what is your favorite game?
Well, my favorite game is Doom 2016. I think that. Oh, sorry. If you hear my kitty in the back, I have a new kitty.
Amazing.
So apologies for that. I think that my favorite game is Doom 2016. I think that it just does everything right, and I think that what I enjoy about gaming is just telling stories. Hello. Let's close that. Yeah, so telling cool stories is what it's all about for me, and I think that Doom 2016 really does that.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, cool. And the cat's totally welcome, by the way, too. I'm sure everybody loves it. My cat does the same thing. Yeah, I can see people in the chat commenting.
Sorry about that.
No, no worries. And then, so what initially attracted you to the game development bootcamp?
I think I wanted a really fast track into game development. I'll touch on that probably later, but I've been a sound designer and audio specialist for years, and I think that I really wanted to find a way to start applying those skills in the field of video games, and I didn't really know where to start. Obviously, there was YouTube and stuff like that, but I found this, and I thought, reflecting on it now, I'm really glad that I did. It was a really natural progression from this to the music software that I worked in.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear how people get involved or what angle they come from.
Right.
Sometimes it's similar and sometimes it's completely different angle.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when you joined the boot camp, did you have any coding experience going into it, or was that something that was new for you?
Yeah, I actually did. I would say I had like an intermediate level of coding experience. I had done some at my last job, not as a full-time job. And I think that it really helped me to have a base level and to understand coding fairly well. But I didn't have any in video games, and I didn't really know where to start in terms of programming for video games. I think that I was kind of lost when I was looking that up. And I think that the bootcamp really helped me explore and provide, they provided a lot of great resources and kind of pathways and topics that I could explore. Yeah.
I was going to ask you too. And so you had a bit of a coding experience, but pretend if you didn't, how would you kind of feel that the boot camp, or how would it be for students, I guess, that were coming in at a beginner level?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot, actually. I think that for a person with zero programming experience, and there were actually quite a few people in my my classes who didn't, and they ended up making full games. I know that it was a lot for them to rack their brain around, but that's just school in general, I think. I think that there were so many good resources, and I think that because it was a boot camp of 6 months versus like some of them like 3 months, 2 months, whatever, I think that the 6 months, it was paced out enough. But I would have, I would say that if you were trying to work full time and do that, you can do that. Just be ready for a lot of work. If you're a beginner coder and you have no coding experience, just be ready for that.
Totally. Yeah, and I'll ask you later too, and maybe just think about it now. But if there's any suggestions you would have for people to, get their feet wet in coding a bit before they actually, if they've registered, they can do something for a little bit. But I'll touch on that afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But, so what can new registered students do? Well, actually, I guess I'll do it here. I thought they had this question later in the list, but what can new registered students do to best prepare themselves for the bootcamp? So that's literally what I was just kind of saying.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, in touching on what I said, I think that because I had the basics, I felt like I had a bit of a head start. I felt like I didn't have to go back and understand the basics of C# for Unity. If you're doing Unreal, learning the basics of C++, I wouldn't say that maybe, if you want to dabble in the game engines themselves, I think that would be a good thing to start with. But mostly, I think the coding is the thing that a lot of people have trouble with. And if you did a little W3 schools or whatever online, just to get your feet wet a little bit in coding, that would help a lot coming down the line.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good advice. And then, so what were the core areas and topics that were covered in the bootcamp as you went through it?
Yeah, so things like, C#, that was one of the big ones. I think that game programming patterns was probably the one that I thought about the most. Obviously, a lot of the C# basics were taught, but there was kind of an onus to learn the C# basics kind of on your own or through the on-demand lessons. But game programming patterns was a big one. Learning the layout and core features of Unity, creating scenes, environments, materials, textures, 3D meshes, working with third-party assets, programming game loop logic. There's so much. It was so much. But I think the way to summarize it is essentially the ability to create a full game. It was not a design focused, so a lot of the like design topics were not really touched on much. But myself and my group members, we did manage to kind of fill in those gaps and do a lot of the design work. We did end up doing some 3D modeling. You ended up kind of being able to wear multiple hats, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I find as developers and designers, it's always beneficial to have a little bit of an understanding of what the other person does.
Definitely.
Yeah, and often they end up working together, I guess, our grads.
Yeah, for sure. Because I had no 3D modeling experience, like zero to start. And by the end, the amount of stuff that I learned about 3D modeling, it was great. And I feel like actually comfortable creating environments and scenes now. I wouldn't necessarily put that on my top of my resume, but I definitely feel comfortable doing it. So
yeah, it's like a core skill that you've got. You understand kind of the basics of
definitely.
it. You can expand from there for sure. All right. So were there opportunities for networking connecting during the boot camp? And did these connections benefit you at all?
Definitely. Yeah, we had obviously there's a quite a large Discord channel that was very helpful. We communicated with our cohorts, but then outside of the cohorts and just in the Circuit Stream community itself, there was a lot of great networking that went on there. Meeting different instructors through one-on-ones was great, but also the Circuit Stream hosted game jams were really great for meeting people. I think that was actually the best way. I ended up meeting one person in one of those and one person in another that I ended up working with for my final project. And then obviously class group projects. There were some group projects that we did, and yeah, they just kind of cemented our relationship as a cohort.
Awesome. And you're still connected in the Discord community now, hey?
Definitely, yeah. So I'm still in there. Not as active as maybe I should be because I'm busy now, but yeah, definitely.
It'd be a cool, like, if you had any questions about something that you didn't quite understand, would you kind of use that as a resource to go in and maybe ask and see if there's any support there from other students or from
instructors? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I found there were all sorts of technical things that I would look for. You could get advice, guidance, you could showcase your work. There was, job opportunities that were posted in there. It was a fully functioning community, really. Still is.
Amazing. And then how was your experience presenting your project at Pitch Day?
Technically, it went really smoothly with lots of guidance about how this platform works, and we did a couple run-throughs, so technically it felt great. And then both, in terms of structuring our presentations, in terms of content, we had a lot of guidance there as well with some good kind of like template materials, so that we didn't have to like do everything from scratch. I think that was the biggest benefit of Circuit Stream as a whole, is like a lot of things that you don't have to like do everything from scratch. There was a lot of like good like template materials, assets, and help for presenting yourself.
Lots of support. Good. I'll pass that on to One Eye. She'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Good job, One Eye.
And then why would you suggest that taking a structured boot camp is more successful than attempting? So this before I finish this question, this kind of ties into the name of today's event, but why would you suggest that taking a structured boot camp like this one's more successful than attempting to teach yourself game development skills solely using online tutorials or YouTube videos or anything like those? And the second part of that is, would you miss out on structure or key foundational skills that you found were provided in the boot camp?
So yeah, I guess I'll answer the last question first, which is yes. For myself personally, I know that there's probably a small minority of people that probably could be completely self-initiated like that. And certainly, I think about it, I compare it to my music software experience. So I was completely self-taught with my music skills, and I've done that for about 10, 12 years now. I've worked with that type of software, all those concepts, within that industry, and that was a very organic thing, but it took me a long time. I'd say what I maybe learned about the software and the industry in 2 years was the equivalent of what I learned in 6 months in the boot camp. So that would be the best way, because I was learning Unreal Engine 5 because I was like, I want to break into the sound design thing. Didn't really know where to start. Could have started Google searching on YouTube and stuff like that. But it kind of, it feels like a little bit of a, it's all on your shoulders. And it's really nice to have kind of just like a bit of a push, and then not to mention, you've got the assets, you've got some of the design. I think we'll probably end up touching on that later, but you have a lot of the design done already for some of the projects that you start on. So that's something that I could have never done on my own. And it just, overall, to summarize, it just fast tracked what I could have done in maybe a year, 2 years into 6 months. So.
Yeah, totally. I think what you said, the time is the biggest thing that I've heard from
For
people
sure.
as well. During that time, a lot of people lose motivation, without having somebody kind of on them and helping them with the support and, on the projects and stuff. But also I found from a lot of people, they end up kind of spinning their tires, and they end up, going down paths that they think they need to learn, and then they end up learning the wrong things, and then they have to kind of unlearn it and go back down the right path. And so I think time is the biggest thing, the biggest benefactor there. It's just, it takes everything and puts it into a concise format and kind of delivers it to you in a 6-month period that, like you said, could take 10 years on your own. So
yeah, and you're accountable. You're a little bit more accountable. It's hard to be accountable to yourself in measured specific ways to what you might need for an industry.
totally.
And that's what definitely.
Well, and if you're doing it solo too, you're kind of relying on like comments below YouTube videos and trying to like go down paths that way. Whereas
For sure.
Your circumstance, you could just whip open your Discord and ask somebody a quick question, which is quite a bit.
I like to think about it like that. You could go that path, and you could go through all the comments and you could gather all the perspectives. But what I think that, like, and not to summarize, I think the instructors were more than this, but I think that a lot of the instructors can be summarized as doing all that for you and collecting all the garbage perspectives maybe that could lead you astray, and just being like, no, this is probably the best way that we found out to do this type of design or this type of programming pattern or whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah, totally. The support just makes such a huge difference. So
Definitely.
Okay. And then how did the bootcamp prepare you for the practical aspects of game development, such as working with specific tools, languages, and technologies? Probably touched a little bit on this, but just maybe kind of touch on that again.
Yeah, I think I did touch on that, but I think there are lots of great assignments, like with that, going back to the accountability. The accountability was there. You had a due date, and the tools were there as well. So you would have the assets that you needed to like get a project started for an assignment. You didn't have to go back to absolute square one. Sometimes if they were trying to teach a concept like multiplayer, which we did, we learned and we created a multiplayer game. We didn't have to go back and create the models, and we didn't have to go back and create the whole scene. The scene was already made. Now we could focus on the specific concept. And there was lots of different there's tons of resources that were there.
Amazing. And then, how do you stay on top or connected to industry trends and information just in general while you're in the course, or just, as somebody who went through a game development course?
Easy answer would be LinkedIn, but I think that it's easy to say LinkedIn, but I think that it's more important than that. I think that really putting myself out there in different ways, getting to know people more than just trying to elicit something out of them, just getting to know people, meeting people. I went snowboarding the other day and I met someone that worked at EA. And you never know when you're going to meet someone that might be able to help you extend your career. And if I had, passed him off, then maybe it wouldn't happen. So I think it's about more than that. Just staying connected with people in general, learning people, getting to know people in the industry, getting to know how the industry works, benefits or the positives and negatives of both of those things. And just trying to stay current as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, LinkedIn's probably one of my main tools, obviously, just to see new updates and see trends and see what people are talking about, I guess.
But, yeah, it is pretty good for that.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then, so considering your experience, what advice would you give to individuals who are interested in starting their own journey in game development and are considering enrolling in this bootcamp?
I would say that, I considered school to be a waste of money at probably one point in my life. But like I said earlier, I think it helped really open doors that it would have taken me so much longer to do, and fast-tracked a learning process and a familiarity with an industry that I would have, like I said, it would have taken me, I feel like 2 years to do that at the pace that I'm going at. And my advice would be, think about what kind of learner you are and what maybe your strengths or weaknesses are, and don't be afraid to seek help or education if you think that it's something that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And so I had two questions here, and I'm pretty sure they're both kind of very similar questions. I didn't realize that I sent you two very similar questions there. So I think we just kind of answered that one. But before I jump into sharing some information on the courses and stuff here, I just wanted to ask you how people can find you and connect with you. Do you have any links that you can share, like a LinkedIn profile link or anything that you?
Yeah, definitely. I'll type some in the chat here. I have my own portfolio, my web portfolio. That's my website. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. I just threw those both in the chat. And yeah, I would just feel free to connect with me anytime, folks, if you need any advice related to CircuitStream or advice related to game development, or most importantly, as a sound designer, if you really need some sound design guidance, I always love to chat about sound design and help guide people along the way. So
amazing. So I can see we've got some questions in the questions tab. I'm going to share some information here for a few minutes, and then I'm going to invite Matt back on stage, and we're going to do the audience Q&A at the end here. But thank you so much, Matt. I'll kick you off and I'll invite you back up here in just a couple.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. There we go. So I'm going to put this back up on the screen here. So so put your questions in the questions tab there, folks. If you have any questions for Matt, I am going to just share some information about the the boot camp, the schedules, the pricing, all that fun stuff, if that's okay with everyone. This cute here. There we go. So I'll start off with the course schedules. So both of the gaming boot camps are 30 weeks long and consist of 5 hours of live online instruction per week via video conference and roughly about 10 hours of independent study. A great thing to note is that these live sessions are recorded and sent to students. So if you do miss one or need to go back and review any of the subjects or topics that were covered, you do get all of the classes recorded and sent to you. So similar to how this session today will be recorded and sent out to everybody. A great perk is that students also get alumni lifetime access to the class recordings and materials. So it's not just while you're going through the course, but even after you've finished, you still have access to all of your class recordings and materials. I know quite a few students that go through and they get challenged to do a project for their work or something after they've taken this course, and they usually lean on their course materials and stuff to assist them with doing those sorts of things. So very, very beneficial to have access to that. There's a million amazing benefits to the boot camps that we offer. In my opinion, if all they did was provide students with a possible career in the gaming industry, they would be worth it. But I'm just going to share some of the additional benefits that come with our 2 boot camps for everyone here. So the boot camps come with 30 weeks of instructor-led classes, which include 12 technical and career labs and 10 one-on-one sessions. The boot camps come with foundational game development and game design core concepts. They allow students to create and develop comprehensive portfolios using their own ideas. They connect students to a network of instructors and over 2,000 alumni, as we were just chatting about there. And finally, as a part of the boot camps, we actually offer access to private AMA sessions for our students with professionals from within the gaming industry. So who we have confirmed so far for 2024, we're going to have guests joining us from amazing companies like Unity, Keyword Studios, Game Breaking Studios, and more. And then we've also got guests on deck from Riot Games, from Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, a whole bunch of companies there. So we're going to have some amazing AMA sessions for our students this year. And if anybody doesn't know what an AMA session is, it's just an Ask Me Anything session. I was throwing that term out last week, and a couple of people didn't know what I was saying, so I was like to make sure I clarify. And as a quick reminder, these are the key outcomes from our game development bootcamp: the skills, the coding, game architecture, so on and so forth. And I'm going to do the same here and show everyone the outcomes for our game design bootcamp. Game design foundations, game feel, user experience, game design portfolios, et cetera, et cetera. And then now for the tuition information. So the full price for both of these boot camps, they're priced the same, and they both run for the same amount of time for 30 weeks. The full price is $14,995, but we do have an event promotion in place. So if anybody is looking at registering for the upcoming cohorts, I'm going to share the dates in just a minute as to when they start. But the regular price, $14,995, is actually going to be knocked down with 15% off to $12,745. So it makes quite a huge difference in the cost if you are looking at taking one of these boot camps with us or registering for them. Probably a good time to do it while the promotions are in place. We also do have payment plans available for 6, 12, and 24-month periods. If you have any questions about that, I'm going to share the contact information in just a couple of slides here, but just reach out to the team, admissions@circuitstream.com, and they can answer any questions about the payment plans, about the promotions, about any of that if you have any questions about that stuff. And then, yeah, the upcoming course dates. So we usually run these boot camps every 5 or 6 months or so. The upcoming cohorts are going to run from May 21st through to December 14th for both boot camps. I don't have the next dates listed on the slide here, but if somebody was looking to register, especially if they were looking to utilize the promotion that we have available and they weren't able to register for these dates, I believe we'd be able to apply the promotion for the next set of dates as well. Just reach out to the admissions team and they'd be able to confirm what those dates would look like for you. But they usually run every 5 or 6 months or so, so likely some point in the fall there. And if you'd like to register for the boot camps, I've put these QR codes up on the screen for everyone. I'll leave these here for a second if you want, but if you are trying to click on any of the links, just make sure when you put your phone camera up that you just tap on the square first and then tap the link, or otherwise it's going to try and attach to all the different links on the screen, and you might end up at the wrong university or the wrong website if that's what you're looking for. So, but these are all of our university partners here. And those are the direct QR codes that will take you to the course pages. So for UBC, UFT, U of Alberta, CircuitStream, of course, directly through our company, and then also through UCI and through UCF. Those are all the QR codes for you guys there. And again, the session will be recorded and sent out. So those QR codes should work in the recorded session just the same way. So you can access that anytime. And then I mentioned before, if you do have any questions about the courses or how to get started, you can reach out directly to us. The easiest way is admissions@circuitstream.com. You can also go to CircuitStream's main website, just circuitstream.com, and there is a live help function, which will connect you to our team as well. So, and that's it. That's it. I just wanted to share some course information there and go over that, but I'm going to close this now and invite Matt back up on stage. Oops. There we go. And we will flip over to the questions tab and go through these, and hopefully we can answer everybody's questions here. So is ageism, oh, I like this question. This is great. I actually have a good stat for this question for you, Scott. Is ageism a major factor in breaking into the gaming industry? What is the best way to get around it? I actually just saw a stat. This is specific only to the United States. And I didn't include it in this presentation, but I read that, I don't want to say this exactly. don't quote me on this for anybody who's watching this presentation, but I believe it was over 60% of the current game developers that are working in the United States are over the age of 40. So it was a shocking stat to me. I didn't really know what I expected when I was looking into that information, but my main goal was to kind of debunk the thought that, once you reach a certain age, you're not really valued in the industry, you're not able to find jobs in the industry, which is certainly not the case, especially just looking at the amount of people who are working in the industry in the United States over the age of 40 as it currently stands. So, and then I don't know, Matt, do you have any experience with that? Have you had any? Everybody I talk to or ask them about this, they don't really say that they've ever encountered anything. It's more of a perception for people on the outside going in, from what I've seen. But have you experienced any sort of issues with that?
Not particularly. I think ultimately projects and project experience is ultimately important, and I think in relation to that does end up making ageism a little bit of a thing. But if you're 20 years old, 21 years old, or whatever, and you've done a bunch of projects, like don't get hung up on concepts like that, and just understand that projects are ultimately how you showcase what you've done, and direct your energy into things like that. Show rather than tell. I think that I try to always just show that I'm good at what I do, and I think that ultimately that can go across any age.
Yeah, and that mirrors exactly what I've asked a few recruiters the same thing. And when I asked them, like what limitations or what things would you kind of, they never really say anything like that. It's just exactly what you said, Matt. Like if they can demonstrate or show that they understand the skill set that we're wanting to hire them for that job, that's the most important and most valuable thing. So age is not nearly as important or looked at as an important factor in that decision. So cool. So since the games industry has had all these layoffs, would starting out in the game industry as a junior be a good choice? This is my concern. I mean, absolutely. There's so many different angles for this, but like I've gone to a few conferences. I keep asking people who are working in hiring roles, like what's the layout of the industry? What's the landscape look like right now? Like, is it, are the layoffs something concerning? And most of the information that I've heard back is it's a bit of adjustment. I mean, industries always have ebbs and flows, ups and downs, but coming out of COVID as well, there was a huge amount of hiring that happened in a lot of these companies. And I can't speak for any other company or speak for all of them as a whole, but just some of the information I've heard from people is a lot of it's just balancing out from a lot of overhiring that happened during COVID. And I can see Matt nodding along, so I'm hoping that's some of the same information you heard too. But just in terms of getting in as a junior, there's, we're connected with a lot of companies. We have a lot of recruiters that we speak to, and there's always people hiring. So, you hear in any industry about layoffs or about anything, and it seems a little bit daunting. But if you don't focus on that and you focus on the other side and focus on your skills and go through, there's tons and tons, there's millions of opportunities out there in every industry. You just have to kind of look at it that way. So, and sorry, Matt, I think you were going to say something there.
No, just to add to that, I think that this question and the last question are both kind of this in a similar kind of ballpark, in that I would say that if you really enjoy these things, and you really want to potentially make a career out of them, or I think that people enjoy games too much, people enjoy media too much. Whether it's VR, AR, whatever it is. I think that people enjoy these things too much for the industry to just die. Or, I think that the restructuring exactly is what I've heard. And I think that there definitely has to be some kind of profit restructuring because of the way services like subscription services and all this, and there's definitely got to be lots of restructuring, but those are things those are systematic things that are beyond you, and it's important to educate yourself, but don't let those things be like, don't get hyper fixated on those things. The more you focus your energy on those things and not on trying to, you know, learn and showcase your skills, the more that it's just going to kind of be like a bit of a drain on your energy. And yeah.
Yeah, and just there's just lots of opportunity out there. So just as long as you know that, and you're hearing that from people who are directly connected to recruiters and companies who are hiring all the time, there's tons of opportunity out there. So, all right, how do you think about Unity dropping the ball and saying they were going to charge for every download? Would Circuit Stream still use Unity as a development tool? Yeah, so I mean, we're partners with Unity, but I mean, even with the initial announcement when Unity said they were going to charge, it took us by surprise too. I mean, we weren't in, you know, the Unity meetings learning that they were going to announce something like that. So, but what we do, I mean, Unity is one of the tools that we use. We teach skill sets at Circuit Stream and through our university partners. So we teach you how to code, whether you use that in Unreal or whether you use that in Unity or you know, any other development platform. I mean, the skill sets, obviously there's a little bit of a learning curve between each of them, but the skill set itself is incredibly transferable. So, I mean, we still value Unity as a partner. We still know that learning their development system is incredibly beneficial for students who are looking to get into game development and game design. But we can't speak for their company when they make, you know, announcements and things and decide to start changing or charging developers for different types of things. I will say I'm happy that they kind of made an announcement and then retracted some of it, and it doesn't seem to be quite as aggressive as the initial one was. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that answers the question. Like Unity is just for us. We kind of look at it as one of the tools that we use to teach development skills, but we're not stuck with just using Unity.
Yeah, definitely. I just to mirror that exactly. I think that, yeah, it was a PR blunder more than anything, and I think that they're really aware of the mistakes that were made. I think that shows a lot of kind of accountability. But relating to Circuit Stream, I think that, you know, had I chosen, and this the kind of answers the thing about Godot or whatever. I think that it doesn't really matter too much. It's the same thing with music software. There's always a bit of like, there's always a big like, do you use Ableton Live or Pro Tools or whatever? And those might sound irrelevant to you and what you're doing, but it's the same concept. These softwares are just different. They just different makeup of the same concepts. And I think that when I learned Unreal Engine. When I took a course on that. Now that I've learned Unreal Engine, I realized how easy and quick it was to learn Unreal Engine because I had all the concepts. I understood how to make scenes. I understood meshes. I understood physics. A lot of the same things. They're so very similar, and even the interfaces between Unreal and Unity are quite similar. I found, at least.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And even going down to like the coding languages themselves. Like if you learn C++ or C#, for example, learning C++ afterwards is way easier than if you didn't have the C# knowledge.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, Justin. I have no experience in coding. So what are some resources you can suggest for me to start off reading before the actual course? I think you had suggested some earlier there, Matt, hadn't you?
Yeah, there's so many. Well, one I would say that I use a lot when I was in school for programming. This was a different thing a long time ago. I used a thing called W3 Schools, and I'll find the link for you. And they have just great online web tutorials. They give you the real basics there, and I think that was one of them. But there's really so many. Like if it depends on what you kind of, are you more of a, if you're fine with something online and you can just kind of read and work through it yourself, great. Otherwise, there's some YouTube tutorials. I didn't do a whole lot of that for programming, but I did learn certain concepts, cemented certain concepts on YouTube. So that would be something you could do to start.
Amazing. And if you connect with the admissions team here too, they'll probably be able to suggest even more. I'm not sure, Samantha, if you're currently registered for one of the courses, the upcoming courses, or if you're just looking at registering. But yeah, feel free to reach out to the admissions team for additional support and advice there too. And as someone who has 3D modeling experience, what would you recommend to keep the motivation for portfolio building? As mentioned in another question, new layoffs and the industry as a whole being extremely competitive for juniors and entry-level designers can be a little bit disheartening. Sorry, I didn't want to cough in everybody's ear there. So let me do that one more time. As someone who has 3D modeling experience, what would you recommend to keep motivation for portfolio building? Well, I mean, do you want to touch on that at all, Matt?
For portfolio building, I would say outside of CircuitStream, you can. I mean, CircuitStream is a really good way for portfolio building. I have like 3 pretty big projects that I can showcase my skills with, and it also helped you make a portfolio. That was a big thing that I didn't have. I had kind of a starting point, so it was good for me. But I know a lot of people had absolutely zero portfolio, zero LinkedIn presence, zero networking presence, and there was a big emphasis on that in CircuitStream. But on top of that, portfolio building is all about projects. So if you're self-initiated, make a project, make a game, and take some videos of that, showcase it on your website, showcase it on LinkedIn, showcase it wherever. But other than that, I think keeping motivation, if you're really finding you're having trouble self-initiating, I don't know, go grab another course. Udemy has some good ones. But yeah, CircuitStream, Udemy, YouTube, follow one of those and get a starting point for a project, then make it your own.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Okay. And then as AAA video games become more corporate controlled, over monetized, soulless, and releasing unfinished, is it still worth to get hired by AAA game companies? What is your motivation for making games? When your motivation for making games is passion. Sorry, I read that wrong. So, yeah, go ahead, Matt, if you were going to say something there.
Yeah, I was just going to say that experience is experience no matter where you are. And I think that experience is very coveted. So if you're really set on not doing AAA, that's fine. But just be prepared. You gotta probably have to do a lot more work to find the other jobs. And I think that ultimately there is a bit of a correction happening, and there's a lot of people within AAA games that they don't feel the same way that that community feels, and then there's a whole bunch that feel the same way that the community feels. And I think that there's ultimately some work to be done to kind of get back in trust, but there's certainly a lot of good coming out of AAA games still. They're just it's coming,
Yeah, and I source out speakers. I'm connected with quite a few people who are currently working in AAA game studios, and most of them, if you ask them, they'll say hands down, I love my job, I love where I work, I love this company. They'll talk honestly about things like crunch and about things that they've experienced in their careers. But for the most part, anybody that I currently know who's working for AAA game studios, they're quite happy. But I would say is if you're a true beginner, Jordan, it's probably going to take you a little bit to get in the door of a AAA game studio. Oftentimes people who are taking boot camps or starting off brand new would start off in smaller studios, indie studios, and then eventually start working for things like AAA game studios as well. So but yeah, anybody I know who's working in those studios right now seems to be really enjoying their jobs. So maybe that's a limited perspective from my specific connections, but yeah, I think it's absolutely worth it. And if it's usually the ultimate goal for most people. If they can break into the industry and eventually make it to a AAA game studio, I think there's a lot of benefit to be had with that. There's just a lot of experience that you'll gain, and not to mention, obviously, it's going to look amazing on your resume too. So, what are your thoughts on Godot as an alternative language and engine to create titles? I'm going to let you answer this one if it's okay, Matt.
Yeah, I did touch on that earlier with the engine stuff. I tried to reference this question earlier, but yeah, I think that learn the concepts, and the engine is maybe not irrelevant, but it's certainly, it's just a tool for applying concepts, skills, and your creative ideas. So pick one. That's what I usually tell people, is just pick one. And if you are, you know, not as self-initiated, pick one that is widely used. And then there's lots of resources for that. Godot doesn't have as much resources. Unity has a ton and great documentation. Yeah, that's what
I think I pronounce Godot every single time, so I do apologize to the crowd for doing that again. I've done it every single time I've seen it. I don't know why. It's one of those things I just can't say it right. Godot. And so what position did Matt get into after the boot camp? Well, I'll preface this by saying too, everybody who comes into the boot camp has different goals. Some people are looking for career opportunities. Matt's coming from a little bit more of a sound background as well, but with that, I'll let you kind of answer that there, Matt.
Yeah, I have some internship lined up with a music studio. That's I think it kind of helped me, like with having projects. I think it kind of helped me get that. Other than that, I've got quite a few other interviews for positions that when I was applying before, I wasn't getting. Currently, don't have a position right now. There is a lot of layoffs that happened recently, but I also just got out of the program about 3 weeks or so ago, or about, yeah, over a month ago. But I've certainly had a lot more opportunities, and I've seen that now.
I was going to say, guys, don't grill Matt too hard. He literally just got out of the course a few weeks ago here, so he's got some internships and he's got some interviews and stuff on the go here too. But the outcome information that I shared in the presentation with 93%, I think it was 92 or 93% of the game seeking graduates found jobs within relevant roles. So and that would be from 2022 to 2023. So yeah, I mean, if you have any more questions about that, just reach out to our team. We can always share some of our outcomes. We have students working at Unity, students working at Bungie, students working in a whole bunch of different places. So, sorry guys. Is there a project in the bootcamp that you still? So you shared the project there. Perfect. So there was just a question from Adam on the questions tab. Is there a project from the bootcamp that you still have to this day, or that you're still working on to this day? And then Matt just shared the link there. So if anyone's in the questions tab, you should be able to click it and kind of see that too.
Yeah, this project was our most I feel like it was my most impressive project. It's a full game, beginning to end. It has a unique design, unique game logic and mechanics. But we're still working on it. So we're actually hoping to release that on Steam one day. I'm taking a lot of feedback from people who've played it, and yeah, we're actually still working on it right now. So amazing. That's what I would say.
I'm gonna save that link too for later. I want to go check it out myself. What are the ideal system specs that one should have when coming into the boot camp or to work on the basics on your own? So something, I mean, I can say from a circuit stream side, I've answered this question a few times. Unity is not like, Unity is free and it's not like an aggressive download, but if you do have a really old system, it can absolutely slow it down when you're trying to do things on it. And then in terms of Mac versus PC, I get that question a lot too. I think PC is the more ideal system for game development and game design. Although if you do have a Mac, it's usually just a simple workaround. I think you have to do one more step usually, and then Unity works fine and everything kind of works on your system. There might be a couple of limitations that pop up, but the instructors usually know how to kind of get around it if that happens. But so I'll let you answer as well, Matt. Those are just kind of the two things that I find myself answering quite often with that question.
Yeah, I would say that if you have a computer capable of playing games decently and you're not struggling, then you're fine. Just keep in mind, the more you try to do, or the less performance you have on your computer, you'll have to take a little bit more consideration for how you play back and how you do your testing. But in terms of like operating system specs, I actually swapped. I have a MacBook and I have a Windows PC, and I swapped between those. I actually used to literally work on one, and I didn't have a Windows laptop, so I would if I needed to work on my laptop at another location, I would literally use GitHub, and I would pull it from GitHub and create pull that repository onto my MacBook. And it worked really well. I was surprised. It took some learning to just kind of understand a bit, but yeah, it was definitely possible.
Awesome. Yeah. So you don't need like a brand new system or anything. You don't need it to be like top of the line, best gaming computer you can possibly have. And it doesn't have to be PC versus Mac. So hopefully that helps answer your question. But yeah, if you've got an older system that you can't really play any games on, then that one probably will struggle a bit with development.
Internet connection is very important.
Yes.
I would say that. I did see him. Cohen was actually a guy who was in my boot camp. And I know that he sometimes had some Wi-Fi troubles because he had to work on a public Wi-Fi. And that might not make your experience as enjoyable. It certainly can. You can certainly later download all of the content and course. So if you can't attend in person and get the best experience through the internet, there's workarounds. So I guess I'd say try to have the best internet you can, but there's workarounds.
Absolutely. Okay, let me put the next one. Oh, yeah, that's the next one. How does this course differ from game development program at a university? So Richard, this course is actually available through universities as well. It's available through the Extended Learning Department at UBC, for example, Extended Learning through U of T, U of Alberta. So where this might differ is this is not a credit course. It is a boot camp that's offered through the Extended Learning Departments at the universities. And boot camps in general, a little bit more fast track than a two-year course, or whatever the case may be. So those would probably be some of the key differences between a course that was offered directly through the university or ours that's offered through partnership with the universities. But these courses that we have, you can take them through University of Toronto, University of British Columbia, University of California, Irvine, Central Florida. So there's a few different options there. Yeah, it's just it's a fast track boot camp. So that's kind of how it's a little bit different from a regular course, I guess. Can you do VR in Unreal? If so, do you teach VR in Unreal as well as Unity? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt. I'll let you.
I was just gonna say I don't know about VR in Unreal. I know that a lot of VR is done in Unity. A lot of the most popular VR is done in Unity. I don't know a lot about that. So yeah.
Yeah, we actually offer 10-week courses also through the universities for AR development and design, and AR and VR development and design, I should say. So we don't use Unreal in those courses. We use just Unity in those courses, and I think it's mostly because of what Matt just said. It's mainly used as the tool in the XR space, whereas Unreal is a little bit more used in game development spaces, game design spaces, app development and design. But in terms of augmented and virtual reality, it's usually a little bit more connected with Unity than it is with Unreal. So. And Tyler, what do you think of the whole Sweet Baby Inc. meltdown? Isn't it interesting that they're from Montreal, Canada? Is this the political climate of our gaming going from here on out? So in full transparency, I have been crazy busy and haven't had a chance to fully read into it. I just saw some little tidbits of what's happening with that. So I don't want to speak to that one. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. But once I know the details, I could answer it probably a little bit better for you. But do you know anything about this, Matt? Is it just no?
Never heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of Sweet Baby Inc. I'd never heard of any of that.
There's some stuff happening.
Even looking it up, I'm having trouble finding reliable information on it. But yeah, no, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it is. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. But if it's in reference to some layoffs, my answer would probably be similar to what we said earlier. If there's something a little bit more individual or specific happening in that company, I'd have to look into it a bit more to kind of speak to it. So I apologize, Cohen. I'm not fully up to date on what's happening with that one quite yet. But yeah, if it's layoff related, it's likely just similar to the information we shared before there. You mentioned concepts as important building blocks for any person looking to create a game. What are some of these concepts? So this would be kind of taking you back to the main things that you learned in the course, I guess, that I asked you earlier, if you want to touch on a couple of those.
Yeah. Big concepts, I think, just generally working with meshes and materials. That was a big one. Getting just kind of familiar with that, and I think that that goes across, understanding what normals are, UV, within materials and meshes and textures and everything. That goes across any engine. That was a big concept. C# programming concepts, game programming concepts, like game programming patterns. Yeah, there's lots. I did touch on a few of them, but I can actually share a list here. But multiplayer functionality, solid principles within programming, class hierarchies, yeah, making game loop, tons. There's tons of stuff.
Totally. And yeah, Lewis, a good spot there too is if you go to any of the websites where the course information is, take a look at the course syllabi or syllabus, I should say, for, well, I guess if it's game development or game design that you're looking at, but look at either of those course syllabi and take a look at the different sections of it, and then just kind of read through, and it'll give you a really good idea of the different core concepts that you'll learn throughout the course, separate from even what Matt just shared here too. So. Is remote work still the norm? I'd say yes and no. I actually have quite a few contacts working in different studios who are working in remote roles right now. And I have a whole bunch that I know who are not working in remote roles, who are working in physical spaces. So how's your connections, Matt? Have you noticed like a big surge of people going back into the physical office, or there's still quite a few remote roles that you know of anybody working in the industry?
Yeah, I would say that I was talking about this the other day with someone. I think that it's still fairly common to have remote jobs, and I think that will always stay, at least whether it's hybrid or not. But I think that things will at least move to more hybrid in general. From what I see from larger companies, they seem to want people back in the office. And there's certain, you could debate it all day whether people are more productive or whether it's subject of much debate. But I think that there's a lot. You just stay tuned, because I think that we'll see in the next 2 years.
Totally, yeah. And if you, Scott, I mean, just take a look online too. If you just kind of search through current opportunities, you'll see a whole bunch that are listed as hybrid or listed as remote or whatever the case may be. It'll give you a good kind of landscape of what's out there right now too. And with massive breakout solo developer, small team indie games like Undertale, Stardew Valley, Inscription, and Pizza Tower, would starting your own indie company be viable these days if you're willing to put in the work? Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I shared some stats earlier about how many studios have expanded in Canada alone in just the last couple of years. I think it's like over 900 studios or so, and a huge portion. In fact, probably the vast majority of those would be indie game studios, creating all different types of games in different spaces. So, I mean, it ultimately depends on what your goal is. If you want to go work for a large game studio, then starting your own indie studio might not be the quickest way to get there. You might want to, work for some indie studios and eventually try and make your way into a big one. But if your goal is to own your own company and you really want to start your own indie studio, I think it's incredibly beneficial. There's absolutely, I would recommend doing it. But do you have any advice on that as well, Matt?
I mean, we kind of unofficially started our own company, but I wouldn't say that I have enough experience starting an indie company to be able to comment on that.
But yeah, I mean, if that's your goal, Jordan, if that's something that you want to do, I mean, you might not be in a position to do it the second you take the boot camp as you graduate. You might want to get a little bit more experience before you take it off the ground. But I mean, having said that, we do have students who take our courses and do venture out into their own companies and create their own spaces and their own things. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there. And what kind of non-coding skills are useful to have and develop for game development and game design? We'll get some updates here.
Yeah, definitely understanding, like I did talk about, using materials, textures, 3D meshes, and just being able to, you may not have to make the assets yourself, like from scratch, but you will have to manipulate them at some point, or you may encounter issues with them within how they relate to physics or whatever. Understanding physics, understanding collision, those are core things that are built upon code, but in terms of within engines, understanding the layout and the core features within them, understanding how to create UI, which you can create a lot of UI without any code. And then also a big one actually is interpreting documentation. There's a lot of documentation online. There's a lot of forums online, and learning how to interpret that documentation and how to search for your own answers to accomplish your tasks is a big one, and I use that every day, pretty much.
Amazing. And then from the design side too, yeah, I find that anybody who comes, especially if they come from a design background, any skills that they used, or basically, I guess that would all be non-coding, because most of the design side isn't really coding focused, but anything that comes general design skills are definitely applicable in game design as well. So, and I think that's it for the questions. I'm just having a quick look through here. I think we hit them all. And I'm going to take a quick look at the chat tab here too. Oh, it says I skipped a question. Let me just go back and see. I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything there. Oh, I did. Sorry. What are, if any, some feasible points of entry into the gaming industry with zero to minimal technical background and requirements? Something on like that on the business finance management side. So what are some feasible points of entry into the gaming industry? Oh, go ahead, Matt, if you were going to say something there.
I have project management background and a business analyst background. I think that those are really applicable skills, actually. And those are things that you're gonna end up working with in some regard, whether it's you're going to get design documents from someone and you're going to be a software developer and you're going to have to interpret those design documents, or conversations in which you're designing a game and you're going to be told certain requirements that need to be fulfilled. Those are business requirements. Those are all non-technically technical things, but I think that they're still very important. There's tons of things that are you're going to touch on. Understanding how to work within a agile development cycle. Those are kind of other things that are applicable.
Totally. And just to touch on that too, just as a quick little plug, I guess, we do also offer product management and software development boot camps as well through these universities. So yeah, if you're looking at doing something a little bit different that has a bit of an overlap, like some people would take software development and end up working in game development, and likewise some people might take game development and end up working as software developers at complete non-related non-game related companies. So we do offer those courses too, so if you have any questions about those ones as well, just feel free to reach out to the admissions team and ask there. And I'm going to scroll back up. Yeah, I think that's all the questions here. Just having a quick look through the chat tab, but it's looking good. I think we answered everything here. So sorry, folks. So without further ado, I'm just going to say a huge thank you to Matt for taking the time to join us here today and for answering all of my many, many questions and the audience questions and just sharing on your experience with the course. So thank you for taking the time to do that with us today, Matt.
No problem. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah, and I'll have you back again for sure for a future session if you're okay with that. But
I'd love that.
Perfect. And then, so yeah, if anybody has any other questions following this session, reach out to us here at CircuitStream. You can reach out to admissions@circuitstream.com. If you're looking to utilize the promotion that we have, the 15% off, just make sure you let them know that you attended the session here today and that you're interested in some of the upcoming course cohort dates there. So, I'll make myself big there. That's okay. So yeah, so that's it. I'll without further ado, I'll end today's session. Thank you again, Matt. I was going to say thanks one more time before you hopped off there, but thank you, and everyone, stay tuned for our next events. Check out the university pages or check out circuitstream.com. In the events tab, we will have information for about the upcoming events. I believe when we have one next week on the XR courses, the 10-week XR development course and the 10-week XR design course. There was some questions about AR, VR in the chat. So if anybody wants to learn more about those classes, just register at circuitstream.com and we will see you next week. But that's all for today, folks. So thank you so much. We hope you have an amazing Tuesday, and we will see you all next week at the next session. Cheers.